I work as an educational advisor at Education USA Pakistan. We are a network, we are a US State Department network. We are the accredited source for US higher education in Pakistan and all across the world. We have 430 advising centers, international advising centers all across the world, and we are present in 178 countries across the globe. We provide accurate, comprehensive, and current information about US education, and it's free of cost. I welcome you all, whoever is here to attend this session, and I present to you my two amazing speakers for today. We have Shannon O'Hagan from University of Missouri. She's the Assistant Director, International Admissions. Hi, Shannon, how are you?
Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. We're glad to have you here. And then we have Ashley Keegan. She's the International Recruitment and Admissions Coordinator at University of Missouri, St. Louis. Hi, Ashley, how are you?
Hi, Mariam. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So as you all know, this session is called Get to Know, which means we are going to give you some valuable piece of information. And this time around, this information is basically about two schools, University of Missouri and University of Missouri, St. Louis. As you can tell from the names, there are two amazing schools in Missouri, the state of Missouri, which a lot of people in Pakistan don't really know about. I was also an international student a few years ago, and I went to the state of Missouri. I went to Missouri State University, and I did my graduate school from there. Initially, when I decided to go to Missouri, everybody was not really sure if I should be going to Missouri because it was not very popular among students in the country. But my experience in Missouri, I call it my second home now. My experience has been amazing. The people, I don't think I have words to tell what impact Missouri has left on me. So today I work as an educational advisor for Education USA, and I spread the good that I once received. And I welcome my two wonderful speakers, and I invite them to speak about their schools, to speak about US education, and to speak about Missouri as a favorable state for international students to study in. Shannon, please start.
Great, thank you so much for that introduction. And we're always so happy to hear about positive experience in the state of Missouri, and certainly very excited for this opportunity to introduce you all to the opportunities within our state. So to go ahead and get started, I think it would be helpful for us to provide some broader context for the US higher education system overall. So if you're not already aware, the US higher education system is quite large. We have more than 4,600 degree granting institutions. And so you have many different options for where you want to study in the US and what you want to study. And within that system, there are many different types of institutions available. So not only is there a large quantity, but it's also very diverse. And you'll find diversity in things like the type of institutions, whether it's a 2-year or a 4-year institution, the types of academic programs that are offered, so whether it's comprehensive, meaning many, many different majors, or more specialized under particular areas, as well as the student population. So the size of the institution, the types of students who go there, whether those students are from that region or from throughout the US, and then also the location and climate. So the US is a fairly large country, as you're likely aware, and the concentration of universities is not in one particular area. So there are many different types of universities throughout the United States. The last thing I want to mention is it's a very decentralized system. And so this is different than many countries in the world where there might be kind of a central authority that governs the different universities. And the reason I wanted to mention this is because it's reflected in the admission process. So you'll find that different universities have their own admission criteria, their different types of programs. And so you'll find a lot of different options, but a lot of different types of information requirements depending on where you want to study. Along with this, there are many benefits of why you might want to consider the US for your higher education studies. So not only are there a lot of different options, so high quantity of options, but there's also a high quality of options available. So in the US, we're very fortunate to have many different types of institutions that are all great places that might be a good fit for you to study. A really nice part of the US education experience is, of course, the academics itself and what you can expect in a US classroom. So in US classrooms, it tends to be a pretty engaged environment where students are encouraged to ask questions, to provide critical thinking, to interact with their professors and their peers, and work on different hands-on learning experiences that tend to be project-based. So there's a lot of emphasis on that kind of hands-on type learning experience. There's also the ability to study more than one thing. So it tends to be a pretty flexible curriculum overall and overall system. So unlike some countries where you have to decide exactly what way to study and go down that path, you often have opportunities to take different types of courses, what we call a liberal arts foundation. And so you can take some more general education courses and then sort of specialize as you continue. This is especially true at the bachelor's level or undergraduate study level. And it's also possible to change your mind. So if you start on one path and then change your mind, that's okay. Many students do change their mind of what they want to study, and they don't have to start completely over again if that is the case. Final benefit I want to mention is just the student experience of US higher education. So again, very diverse systems, so different types of experiences on different campuses, but overall it tends to be very active and engaged. So we believe in a holistic learning experience, a well-rounded learning experience where students do engage in a lot of opportunities both within the classroom as well as outside of the classroom. So things like research, internships, student organizations, a lot of traditions around different university environments. And we think this contributes to your overall educational experience. So with that, I'll pass it over to Ashley to talk a little bit more about Missouri itself.
All right, thanks, Shannon. All right, guys, so a little bit of background on the state of Missouri then. So, with the U.S. being such a large country with so many different, all 50 states, every single one's got its own kind of unique place in our history. So a bit about Missouri. So we were the 24th state to be named into the USA. That was in 1821. And so this land for our state was acquired in the historic purchase, the Louisiana Purchase, which is when the early United States government purchased a huge chunk of land from France. And then two well-known explorers in our history, Lewis and Clark, traveled through the land and went to see what kind of animals were there, what kind of nature, what kind of rivers, and mapped it all out. And then through all that, we had several states come out of that, Missouri being one of them. So truly, Missouri kind of has this affinity with being, the point of the westward expansion of the U.S. So you think the pioneers and going west. So that's a little bit about kind of the significance of Missouri in the United States history. As you could see on a couple maps we had earlier, we are going to be located in the middle, in the heartland of the USA. So out here in the heart of America, we call it the Midwest, Midwestern America. I've grown up here my whole life, and I have to say that, as Shannon was saying earlier, being a large country, it's going to be so different throughout the whole place. And I think that the Midwest has very unique and very charming culture about itself. I think it's a great place to be. I think that the spirit of the Midwest is a very welcoming and just overall generally friendly area. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and jump to a little bit about the climate in Missouri. So Mariam, I know with your experience being here, I'm sure you are well familiar with the change of the seasons. And they do look quite different throughout the year. So I think that's always fun, is to have a year that looks a little bit different throughout the year. So you'll have your hot summers and the autumn season, which would be my personal favorite because that's when all the colors and the leaves change. It's the start of a fall semester, and you get closer and closer to the winter. You have fun holidays like Halloween celebrated, Thanksgiving happens, then eventually you get into winter. So you'll have it's traditional to have the winter break in between the fall and the spring semester, so that's always fun. Temperatures get a little cooler for many students that come internationally. It's the opportunity for the first encounter with snow. We did get quite a bit of that this winter, actually. Then finally spring, we start to get back into the warmer temperatures. The flowers start to bloom. So really something different throughout the entire year. So always good to note, if you do come to Missouri, then, you want to have a couple different types of clothing. You want to have jackets, short sleeves, pants, shorts, the whole lot. So I'll pass it back on to Shannon now, and she'll be able to tell you a little bit about, kind of the industries that are known here in the state of Missouri.
Sure. Yeah, we wanted to just briefly highlight different industries in Missouri because we know that it is a state that perhaps is a little bit less known sometimes in other countries. And so it's important to know that we do have quite a good industry within our state, and it is highly diversified. So I've listed, the major industries that we have here, which you see encompasses many different types of industries. So everything from agriculture to aerospace to publishing and printing, to manufacturing. So really across the board, there's a lot of different types of industries happening within our state. And the reason this is important to know is because this provides students with opportunities to get connected to internships, to research opportunities while they're a student, even within the state. So certainly at our college campuses, at our universities, students do internships locally, they do them within the state, they do them in the region, internationally, kind of across the board. But I think it's important to know that these connections do happen within our state itself. The opportunities are there, and that this also helps to drive some of the research and other opportunities happening at our individual institutions. So there are strong connections to these different types of industries. So in the case of businesses, for example, we have businesses ranging from very small startups, entrepreneurial ventures, to Fortune 500 companies with some iconic brands that you may recognize. There's also great opportunities in biosciences. So if you're interested in more of the research side of things, there's certainly a lot of industry in that in our state. And then information technology was another one I highlighted because certainly it's an important area and one that's constantly changing and evolving. And so it's something where students can be part of that innovation and know that it's a good place to make those types of connections. Now, just wanted to briefly highlight the higher education system overall before we talk about our individual institutions so you can understand kind of how we fit into that broader picture. So within the state of Missouri, again, it's a fairly diverse system where there are a lot of different types of institutions within our state. So as you see here, the breakdown of 13 public four-year institutions, 14 public two-year colleges, 25 private four-year colleges and universities, and 11 specialized or technical colleges. So a lot of different institutions within our state, a lot of different types and sizes, and we represent 2 of those within our state. And there's many reasons why you might want to study in Missouri, why you might want to consider it. We've highlighted a few of those examples here. So we do have excellent academic programs offered within our state. So there's both that quantity and quality aspect that I mentioned earlier, where many different types of programs offered, as well as great ways for you to continue your studies. So certainly we have bachelor's through PhD represented throughout our state. Another great benefit is lower cost of living. So being outside of the coasts in particular, the cost of living tends to be lower in the state of Missouri overall. And then, as Ashley mentioned earlier at the beginning, we're known to have a friendly atmosphere. It tends to be very inviting. And Miriam, I'm so glad to hear of your personal experiences with that, because it's something we're certainly proud of and something we want students to have a positive living and learning environment within our state. So then I wanted to talk a little bit about the University of Missouri system. And this is something that can sometimes be a little bit confusing because it's a system within the overall higher education system. Sometimes I like to explain it just in terms of context. If you think about California, which is of course a very, very large state, and there's different systems within the California system that many students are familiar with, where that's like the UC, the University of California system, as well as the California State or Cal State system. And so those are kind of groupings of different universities within that state. Well, that's similar to the University of Missouri system, which in our state is a collection of universities that you see listed here. So the University of Missouri-Columbia being my campus, the University of Missouri-St. Louis being the university that Ashley represents. And so these 4 institutions are all part of the same overall system, which shares a kind of overarching administrative structure and governing board in a sense, but then they all have their individual leadership, their own individual academic programs, admission process, etc. So we're all united, we're all kind of like siblings in a way. but we all have our individual identities as well. So within that system, we have 71,000 students across the state. So it's a fairly large system. And it's not just the universities that are a part of this. We also have a statewide healthcare system that's tied to the University of Missouri system, many different research opportunities and incubators. Many of these are on the different respective campuses, but they're also throughout the state. And then there's a network, as you see here, of small businesses and development centers. So different incubators, different kind of think tanks and different types of opportunities, connections with industry, and also just supporting the different development of the state itself. So within that overall context, I'm going to transition into introducing my institution, and then I'll hand it over to Ashley, who will introduce her institution, and then we'll certainly provide plenty of time for Q&A. But is introducing my institution, so I represent the University of Missouri-Columbia, which is commonly referred by the nickname Mizzou. And I work within our Office of International Admissions, and our contact information is listed here, and I will also be sure to provide that again at the end. But getting started with this kind of overall introduction, next slide, is that we are located centrally in the state. So a little context there. So again, Missouri located centrally in the US. Columbia is in the center of Missouri. So we're about halfway between the larger cities of Kansas City and St. Louis. So Columbia itself is a college town. And when we say college town or university town, what we mean by that is that it tends to be a little bit of a smaller community. So in our case, about 117,000 people. And it's really founded for the purpose of the university. So it is a really great environment for university study. There's a lot of support and pride within our community for the institution itself. And what's nice about a college town is that despite it being a little bit smaller than a larger city, there's still a lot going on. So the university brings with it a lot of culture, a lot of opportunities for engagement with the community. We're very fortunate in that our downtown area is connected to our campus itself. So it's very easy for students to get around without a vehicle, for example, and to experience both the kind of the downtown, small downtown area, as well as our connections to nature. So it's a very lovely environment for study, and it's consistently recognized as kind of a top college town in the US. So in providing an overview about the university overall, and we are kind of the flagship institution of the University of Missouri system. So we were the original university that was part of that system, and then the other universities are all kind of added to strengthen the overall system. And so as the central location is also beneficial in that aspect because we certainly have a strong relationship with those different campuses. In my institution, we do have 30,000 students, including international students from more than 100 countries. And we are a research university. So what that means is that there's a lot of research happening on our campus. Our annual research budget is $205 million each year. And we're one of only 34 public universities in the Association of American Universities, or AAU. And if you're not familiar with the AAU, it's a group of universities in the US and Canada dedicated to research and high academic standards. Academically, we have many different academic programs available. So these are our different colleges and schools, but we have 300 degree programs from bachelor's through PhD. And why this is a benefit too is because it gives you many different options of what you might want to study, as well as there's a lot of interdisciplinary research happening, which faculty are engaged with, but so are students. And so you have great opportunities to pursue more than one study. And if you change your mind, you have a lot of flexibility there as well. We're perhaps most well known for our School of Journalism, which happens to be the oldest school of journalism in the world. And so there's a lot of tradition, there's a lot of great resources tied to journalism at my campus. But as you see, many different programs are offered beyond journalism. Some of the other programs that are most popular on my campus would be business, engineering, and kind of the STEM fields overall. Next slide. It's important to think about learning environment when you're considering an institution. And despite being a large university, we certainly do emphasize having a very supportive and strong learning experience for our students. So we do maintain a student to faculty ratio of 18:1, and our average class size is 30. And so students can still make those connections with faculty, can still connect with their peers, and really be supported throughout their studies. We are very fortunate to have amazing faculty representing different disciplines who are truly experts in their fields. Among our faculty are 11 members of the National Academy of Sciences, which is one of the highest honors a scientist can have in the US. We also have a Nobel laureate as well as a retired NASA astronaut. So people who truly are experts and can really help you to understand the material and place it in a real world setting. I provided this slide just to kind of give you a visual of some of the many facilities available on our campus, because the different research, different academic environments that you're in are supported by state-of-the-art facilities representing disciplines across campus. This provides students, faculty, graduate students opportunities to access these types of resources to really enhance their learning and to be prepared for industry or continued studies once they finish their degree program. The overall educational experience at Mizzou is something that I always like to highlight, because something that's unique to Mizzou is the Missouri method, and that really influences how we approach our learning environment for students. So the Missouri method is learning by doing, or hands-on learning opportunities. So this is something where students really take what they're learning in the classroom and apply it in real-world settings through things like research, internships, study abroad programs, student competition groups, and we think this is a benefit to their overall experience. One student I wanted to highlight is actually a recent graduate of the University of Missouri, and he's a great example of someone who has taken advantage of those opportunities available. So as you see here, he is from Pakistan originally, and he was highly engaged on our campus. So his major was in physics, but you see several minors that he studied. And so that's a major is your primary area of study, minor is your secondary area of study. So he is highly intelligent and really combined his studies to sort of specialize his experience. He was also very engaged in research, different types of physics research. He had several poster presentations. He was actually named as an author on 2 published manuscripts. One of those, he was the primary author. And he was also a leader on our campus. So he was very involved in different student organizations, including those tied to physics, as well as those tied to the international student experience. So a great representative of our university and the things that are possible. And he's now doing his PhD continued in physics with an emphasis in kind of the neuroscience area. Then I wanted to briefly highlight just that it's important to know that you're going to receive support along the way. So I know that we have all these opportunities available, so that can almost be overwhelming or intimidating to students, but it's good to know that you don't have to figure all of these things out on your own. So from the time of now through the time you're a graduate of the university, you'll receive great student support to help you navigate the system and to help you be successful in your chosen path. All students at Mizzou who are first-year freshmen, so if you're joining us out of high school, do live on campus. This is a requirement. We are a residential community. We find that students who live on campus statistically are more successful in their university experience in terms of staying at Mizzou, continuing in their studies, and performing well in the classroom. So we provide a very strong residential campus experience where it's not just having a roof over your head. There's also a lot of academic and social support services that come with that. For those of you who are already a university student or looking to join us to potentially transfer or come for graduate studies, there are housing opportunities available for you as well. Next. And the student experience at Mizzou is something else to be aware of and to be excited about, because there's many opportunities for you to get engaged on campus, to really connect with other students, to engage in our different traditions. So you see here more than 600 clubs and organizations. And we think this is an important element. Students kind of find that balance between studies as well as campus life. One aspect of that, next slide, is our Student Recreation Center. And so that's something that is well known on our campus as well. We do think this is important to be aware of, because all of this leads into the overall outcome of your university experience. So it combines your academics with your student experience and really all the things you do with your time here. And for us, that leads to successful career outcomes of recent graduates. So as you see here, 92.7% of recent graduates do find employment within 6 months of graduation or continue on to graduate school. And then I wanted to briefly go into the international admissions process. So I'll just provide a quick overview of those areas and then certainly answer questions after. At the undergraduate level, we keep it fairly straightforward where it's online application, and then you submit your academic records for us to review. We do not require, in terms of test scores, SAT or ACT. Those are optional for international students. However, they are required for scholarship consideration. And then we do require some form of English proficiency. Most commonly, students submit TOEFL or IELTS. Next slide. As far as the specific requirements go, we'll look at the actual educational curriculum that you've taken within your high school to review your records and convert this to our scale to kind of figure out how you compare to other students and how you performed. So on a 4.0 scale, that's a 2.5 grade point average of your overall academic coursework. As far as the English proficiency requirements go, which is on the next slide, this is something where we do, most students, as I mentioned, submit TOEFL or IELTS. For many programs on the TOEFL, this is a 79 with no part score below a 17. There are a number of other exams that we do accept, and we are currently accepting Duolingo for fall 20 and spring 2021. Next slide. And then something I wanted to mention was tied to our international student ambassadors. And these are current students on our campuses or campus who are representing different academic areas, who represent different countries. And they're a great way to learn more about the experience of studying at Mizzou. They're also a great resource if you have questions about the academic admission process. So I always like to highlight them as a great resource. So I'd be happy to connect you with them if you're interested in undergraduate study at Mizzou. And then I wanted to briefly mention graduate study at Mizzou because this is something where it's a little bit of a different process on our campus. We do have many different graduate programs and it's more decentralized. So on the undergraduate side, everyone applies through one kind of central office, which is my office, and then we review and make the admissions decision. On the graduate side, it works a little bit differently, where you do apply through the graduate school, but then ultimately it's your application materials are sent to the academic department for review to determine if you're admissible to their particular program. So it's kind of a two-step process there. And with Mizzou and the way our graduate studies work, the specific academic requirements are determined by those different academic departments. So my first step recommendation to you is to go on the graduate school website to learn more about the different programs offered, because they have a really good website that breaks down the specific details of each program as far as what they do require for admission, whether that's at the master's or PhD level. And they also provide departmental contacts who you can reach out to if you have questions about that particular program, whether it is curricula or the requirements themselves. I have listed our very base minimum requirements for graduate level study for master's and PhD students. So at the very minimum, we look that you've completed a bachelor's degree and that you have a 3.0 GPA or equivalent in your last 60 hours, which is about your last 2 years of coursework, and then meeting English proficiency requirements. However, many programs do have higher requirements. Many programs do require exams such as the GRE or other exams specific to that particular area of study. So all that's to say, great opportunities in graduate study, but just I encourage you to visit that website and explore the requirements specific to the programs that interest you. And then finally, I just wanted to show this very quick video highlighting Mizzou. Hopefully we can get this to play and you can see just sort of a final wrap up of our campus. Great, well, thank you all so much. And with that, I will pass it over to Ashley and I look forward to your questions at the end.
All right, thank you, Shannon. That was great. All right, guys, so I'll go ahead and take the reins here. I'll tell you a little bit about the University of Missouri St. Louis. So without further ado, so our university is actually going to be the largest public research university in Eastern Missouri. We're actually going to rank in the top 6% of universities worldwide, according to the Center for World University Rankings. So our university, we are going to have an array of top-ranking degree programs to choose from under truly world-class researchers and scholars. Our faculty-student ratio would be 19-1. So again, having that close relationship with your professors and having your faculty knowing the students on a personal basis, I think is so important to the college experience. And that's definitely a hallmark of the UMSL experience. We have lots of different ways for students to get involved, tons of student organizations, lots of on-campus housing options. So dorm style, apartment style. Then of course, you know, if you don't want to live on campus, that's actually not a requirement. And we do have several off-campus apartments that are located just right next to campus. Or if you felt like you wanted to live closer to the downtown St. Louis area or another town close to, as long as it's on the Metro link, which is our above ground train, you can do that too. I work in admissions, but I have a team, International Student Services, who are very dedicated to making the UMSL experience as amazing and as fruitful as it can possibly be for international students. So that's whether that's hosting workshops about OPT or CPT, or hosting fun events throughout the year, just to make, just for something to do every month or something. So, you know, they would absolutely be a great resource for our international students. Our Office of Career Services is going to be great for that one-on-one attention, prepping you for the next step, what happens after the education, resume building, cover letter writing, our very own Triton Careers portal, where students can look for internship opportunities, as well as 2 major campus career fairs. So employers specifically coming to the university looking for students with that education. As well as an honors college is an opportunity for undergraduates who wish to incorporate a little bit of research into their undergraduate programs. A few things that make UMSL UMSL. So a few things that make us proud of who we are. We do carry dual AACSB accreditation in both business and accounting. This is actually an achievement that not many business schools worldwide have achieved. So it's something that we're really proud that we have. We have our International Undergraduate Business Program. This has been ranked in the top 25 nationally for a fairly consecutive amount of time, 17 years running. We are a designated National Center for Academic Excellence in Cyber Defense Education. That comes from the National Security Agency, Department of Homeland Security. A little bit about the makeup of our campus. We enroll students from all 50 states, from over 65 countries, about 16,000 students on campus enrolled overall. Then lastly, 94% of our most recent graduates are going to be employed, or they're volunteering, or they're continuing in higher ed after they're done at UMSL. So just going to show that, you know, we value the whole entire experience at UMSL, but we also really care about getting our students to what happens after their time at UMSL as well. So we would have quite an array, as I was saying, of degree programs to choose from at the bachelor's level, master's, and doctoral. We're broken up into several different academic units. I would say that I would see the most demand for our selection of STEM majors. So in terms of technology, I see a lot of demand for computer science, also information systems and technology, and cybersecurity. We'd have a lot of sciences to choose from as well. I'd see a lot for biochemistry and biotechnology, biology, chemistry. And with that, our College of Business Administration as well does get quite a bit of attention. Our international business program, supply chain and analytics, and of course our MBA. Then with that, you know, the College of Education, nursing, social work, and our joint engineering program with Washington University of St. Louis, which is a private institution very nearby. So this is for undergraduates, and we do offer engineering in the areas of civil, electrical, and mechanical. So truly, you know, something for everyone as far as STEM programs to humanities. So, you know, public policy administration, international relations, graphic design, you know, it's truly something for everyone. So I'd encourage anybody who's interested in having a look on our website just to browse through the degrees and see, you know, what might be the best fit for you. So as I was saying, we have students that come from all over the world, and that includes Pakistan. One student who I felt, I might introduce to all of you today would be Neha. She is one of our international students who's come to UMSL from Pakistan. So Neha, we know very well actually, because she has done an internship with us in our UMSL global office. So I would have seen Neha a lot this year, and she would help us a lot with our social media, especially. So it was great to have her around, and it's great to hear that her time at UMSL has been a positive experience, and to hear for what ways that has been and the opportunities that she has gotten through her time here with us. So we love to see it. So I'd love to show you a little bit about, the international student experience here at UMSL, and I figured, what better way to do that than letting them tell you themselves. This video was actually made by our very own UMSL students. It was made in an intro to social media marketing class, so that's why I get excited to show this video.
大家好，我叫宋新瑶，我来自中国。
Namaste, na पेर मनोज।
Namaste, मेरा नाम आशमा हो।
大家好，我叫黄宇翰，我来自中国。
Molomeleni na kila kalawoka。
你好，我的名字叫杨康，我来自中国。
안녕하세요, 제 이름은 고호열이고요. UMSL에서 공부 중입니다.
Hello, मेरा नाम प्राची है।
Well, my first concert was language barrier. English is my second language.
All the staff and advisor, the professor, they are all very friendly and patiently to us, and you don't need to worry about everything, and they will help you all the time and support you.
My first impression, this campus is so amazing.
Yeah, and my first impression, it was great actually. My first day, the orientation day, everyone was so welcoming, and I had a very good time. I forgot I was away from home.
My first impression was, wow, UMSL has a really huge campus.
Because I live in the Meadows, the officer say welcome to our Meadows, and if you need any help, please call me.
I participate in different events, which helped me to open up with them, and they don't treat you like different people or different people from a different part of the world or something. But yeah, that was the main thing, helped me to open up with them. I was able to go into the Grace Hopper conference, which happened in Orlando, and where we celebrated women in technology. So it was a big opportunity for me because I got to introduce with different people from different companies. If you have certain opportunities like going to the conference and all of that, make sure you go for it. Don't be like, no, I'm scared or anything. You don't have to be scared. You need to take that opportunity, go for it, and you will learn a lot.
Participating in organizations, club organizations, and also the advantage of having a small student to teacher ratio, that kind of helped.
I think my professors were very, very supportive. They were understanding. They gave me one-to-one tutor hours. They actually helped me with my personal problems as well. They were always there to listen to me.
There are many events that you can participate in. Triton pantries, rec center events. Everyone, will welcome you. And that's the best way to broaden your social life.
I like the classes. You can choose acting in camera, or you can choose animation, lesson. They are very interesting classes.
If you come here, you can improve your English, you can learn some more knowledge and give you some more international opportunity. You can seek a better life, a better job, and that's why the reason I recommend UMSL.
Don't think too much, just come over here. You're gonna have a good time, and this is a very diverse university. I personally have so many friends from almost all over the world at the moment, so just come over. It's gonna be fun.
UMSL is a diverse school. You will see different people from different parts of the world, and there are a bunch of different opportunities, so make sure you grab them and just go for it.
It's cheap, it's fun, and it's gonna change your life.
I would say go for it. come on board. There's so many new friendships waiting for you. There's so much to learn here, and these will be the best 4 years of your life.
There are a lot of opportunity for you, including internship and job fair and so on.
We transform lives, and we have serious education, serious value, and go Tritons.
All right, so that's a little bit about the international student experience. So another really important thing to know about University of Missouri St. Louis, the thing that makes us unique is our location. So we're going to be located just a stone's throw from downtown St. Louis, which is the 19th largest metropolitan area in the United States. Out of those 20 largest metropolitan areas, St. Louis has the lowest cost of living. That's a huge draw for our city. In fact, it has drawn a number of different professionals as well for that reason. So St. Louis would be quite up and coming in terms of research institutes, innovation centers, business incubators popping up. We'd have 14 Fortune 1000 companies headquartered here. And then of course, we do have ease of getting around here. We would have what's called the MetroLink, which is a light rail system. UMSL students will actually get their very own MetroLink pass for free. And then of course, if you would rather, ride around in cars, that's more your style, we do have the ride sharing apps like Uber and Lyft. And then of course, your American friends with cars as well. So lots of different ways to get around. But a bit about the spirit of our city. This video was made by one of our tourism companies. St. Louis would definitely be a city that people come to tour. So this is going to be a little bit about the personality of St. Louis. So as you can see, not only just an opportunistic city, but somewhere that's very fun, cultural, and vibrant. So a little bit about emission standards here before I get to the close of my segment here. So undergraduates would be fairly straightforward. We'd be looking for the 2.3 out of a 4.0 GPA, which is a number that would be reached after we would evaluate foreign transcripts in our office. For our English proficiency, we would be taking the minimum requirement for undergrads is 5.5 IELTS, 61 TOEFL, 44 PTA. We are taking Duolingo as well now. So the undergraduate minimum would be 85. Then for graduate admission standards, you're going to have the proof of English proficiency requirement and all of your transcripts from any colleges or universities attended. But every program is going to be a little bit different in terms of what else. So how many letters of recommendation, how many do you need a statement of purpose? Do you need a resume? And that's all going to be listed online. So however many additional application materials you're going to need. We have a recommended minimums set for English proficiency because again, every program is different. So recommended minimum for IELTS being 6.5, IELTS 79 TOEFL, 53 PTA, Duolingo would be 105. At the undergraduate level, we will accept SAT or ACT as proof of English proficiency if you have it. The application process is going to be fairly straightforward. So it's an online application form. You go on, you click submit, and then you have a unique application ID number. Now, as part of a thank you for you guys for attending today, you know, if you will just send me an email after you've applied, telling me that you had attended Education USA Pakistan's webinar today, I'll be able to go in and waive your fee for you. So that's going to be a little thank you for coming today. So normally it would be a $40 application fee, but since you took the time out of your day to join us, we will go ahead and waive that fee for you. Just send me an email so I know what your application ID number is. That's going to be right there on the slide, so you can contact me. So you would just upload your English test score and transcripts. Remember, graduates, checking what additional program application materials you need, and then you just submit. So you can always get in touch with me about the status of your application, or you can email our international admissions contact. For undergraduates, you know, it should be a turnaround time of a week. For graduates, probably 12 to 15 business days. So that being said, that is the University of Missouri St. Louis in a nutshell anyway. So if you have any questions at all about, you know, what the UMSL community is like, or if you have any questions I didn't get around to today, you can always contact me at my email here. So thank you so much for coming to join with us today. I was happy to have a chance to talk to you a little bit about UMSL. So with that, I think I'll pass it on to Mariam here, who will take us into our next leg.
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Shannon. Those videos were amazing. Seeing those students, it made me go back to my time when I was a student. And I miss St. Louis. I just realized Missouri was great. And to all the Pakistani students who are attending our session right now, I would want to mention it once again that I am an example of a Pakistani student who went to Missouri, came back as a different person, different in a better sense. And I think I left a piece of me in Missouri. I call it my second home, and my experience in Missouri was amazing. I went to Missouri State, and it is my second home. Thank you for sharing the information about your schools. We have a bunch of questions from the students, and I think they're very interesting questions. Before I go ahead to the questions, I would just want to repeat the fact that Ashley has mentioned during the presentation that she will be giving application fee waiver that costs around $40, right, Ashley?
Right.
Yeah, so application fee waiver, you can receive that if you send an email on Ashley's email ID, and if you're interested in applying to University of Missouri St. Louis. So guys, this is your chance. Go ahead, apply right away, and it is a big opportunity, as I must say. Thank you, Ashley, for doing that. I will now be moving ahead to the questions. So the first question we have is from Zubeda, and she wants to know, are there any scholarships for Pakistani students? Saim also wants to know if you have any need-based scholarships in your schools for any Pakistani students.
Sure, we can probably just take turns answering that one to our respective campuses. I'll just jump in for Mizzou. So we do have scholarships for international students, so certainly Pakistani students would be included in that eligibility. And so at the undergraduate level, our scholarships are merit-based awards that are based on SAT or ACT scores. So if you meet the minimum criteria, you would automatically receive those awards. There's a few competitive-based awards available as well. For the automatic awards, there's no deadline. So as long as you submit scores and meet the requirements, you would get them at any point in the process. For competitive scholarships, the deadline is December 1st to be considered. And the automatic scholarships range from $5,000 to $10,000 per year. The competitive scholarships, the highest award we offer is a full cost award. At the graduate level, it works a little bit differently, which is true in the US kind of throughout, where instead of scholarships, what's more common are assistantships and fellowships, which are awarded to graduate students typically based on their application materials. Assistantships are sort of like being hired by a department for a position where you often are engaged in, say, like a research assistantship or a teaching assistantship, or a general assistantship where you're supporting the functions of that department.
Thank you, Shannon, for sharing that information. Ashley, for your school, please.
Yes, so we do have exclusive scholarship opportunities just for international students. These awards are going to be merit-based in the sense that they're based on your GPA. So however high your GPA is going to determine how much you could be eligible to receive. At the undergraduate level, awards range up to $14,000 a year. At the graduate level, awards range up to $6,000 a year. And then of course, at the graduate level, there is also the opportunity for assistantships.
All right. Thank you. Jazib wants to know if you require GRE, and then I would also want to put up a question related to COVID-19 impact to your admission requirements. Is there any flexibility in terms of your test requirements, the GPA that you require, or anything else? We'll start from Shannon, and then we'll move on to Ashley.
Sure. So first, answering the question about GRE, which for those of you not aware is kind of a common exam required for graduate level admissions. At Mizzou, the answer is it depends. So many of our programs do require the GRE, but not all. So that's where, because it is so decentralized, first step is to check the graduate school website, which I'll enter that link into the chat. And you can see if it is required by a particular academic program. For COVID-19, kind of two-pronged answer there. At the undergraduate level, so for students interested in bachelor's degree programs, we're being as flexible as possible in accommodating students. We understand this is a challenging time. We understand students are facing disruptions to their studies. And so with things like deadlines for when we accept materials, we're being very flexible in accommodating to those students. We also are accepting a Duolingo currently for fall 2020 and spring 2021 admission for students who are unable to take TOEFL or IELTS. At the graduate level, similarly, because it is done in the department, it depends on the department as far as how flexible they are able to be with their requirements. So you'll have to reach out to the graduate school, to that particular department if you have questions. But overall, the institution is trying to be flexible and accommodating students with the different stated requirements. So never hesitate to reach out and ask questions if you're not quite sure.
Thank you. Ashley, for your school?
Right, exactly. So it would be a very similar answer on my end as well. So it would depend, on which programs, if the GRE or the GMAT would be a requirement. And then, of course, understanding that the current situation of the world has made it difficult in some cases to obtain a test score. Always being able to reach out to the graduate program director to let them know about your situation. The more we know about what's going on, the more that we can look into trying to see what we can do. Two programs, the MBA and the Masters of Information Systems and Technology, did go ahead and waive the GRE or the GMAT requirement for fall 2020 due to the coronavirus in particular.
That is great. As a golden rule of thumb, can we tell them that, the more you communicate, the better chances you have of getting the right information and maybe getting some waivers?
Well, for sure, getting the right information and then seeing, what the possibilities are. Like if we're flexible in a certain program and the graduate program director finds other ways to know that, you would be able to have a successful time in the program, then absolutely. It certainly is all going to be situational.
I get it. Great. Shannon, we have a question for you from Kanan Asif. He says that he's interested in PhD in business at your school. He has missed the deadline. He says it was February. Can he still apply? Do you have rolling admissions? And if you could just share the application fee cost for that.
Sure. So I've provided in the chat a link to the graduate school website where you can go on there, and that's where you can access all the different programs as well as the departmental contacts for those programs. So specifically for the PhD in business program, you can go on there and look up that departmental contact as well as any other information about it. So I would say, as far as if the deadline for that one was February, it's not very likely at this point that they are still accepting applicants for the fall. Never hurts to ask though, especially if you have a legitimate reason, if it's COVID related, those types of things, it never hurts to ask those types of questions. In the normal circumstances of things, when things hopefully return to normal, just for those of you interested in master's and PhD level study, I would say to pay attention now to those deadlines because they do tend to be fairly strictly enforced. And the reason for that is because of the process, because there's many different people involved. So there's a lot of moving parts where often it's a committee review. They're often connecting applicants for review by different faculty members. And so there's a reason why they have those deadlines, because they have to have that timeline of review in order to make those decisions for the spaces that are available. So just a little context of like why deadlines exist in that place. So for this particular situation, I don't know whether or not the program will be willing to be flexible, since we are pretty far past their deadline, but certainly don't hesitate to reach out and ask them or see when they are able to accept for the next round.
Thank you for answering that. So one of our students is interested in a doctoral program for architecture. Do the two schools offer it? And if they do, any requirements in specific that you would want to share? We'll start off with Shannon.
We do not. So we do architectural studies at the bachelor's level, but we do not have it at the master's or PhD level.
Mm-hmm.
Neither would UMSL actually. So, the closest to architecture we would have would be the engineering options at the undergraduate level.
All right. Thank you, Atik. So Atik, for you, they don't have a doctoral program for architecture, but they do have similar programs. You might be interested in looking at their websites. So we have another question from Ilyas. He wants to know that he is interested in applying for a master's in chemistry program. If you could just tell him if your schools offer the program, and if it does, what is the duration of the program?
We do. Sorry, did you say chemistry?
Yeah, Masters of Chemistry.
So for the Masters of Chemistry, sorry, I know it's a quick question and a little bit of a longer answer, but oftentimes for chemistry, students go straight into a PhD level study.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times that it's kind of on a PhD track. So if you're interested in chemistry and continuing on, oftentimes they'll admit from the bachelor's program into that PhD level, and then it's sort of like a combined master's PhD level program.
Mm-hmm. And for you, Ashley?
We do offer an MS in chemistry, and the minimum amount of time for most of our graduate programs is 30 credit hours. So it would be, a 2-year program.
All right, thank you. The next question we have is from Aksa, and she wants to know if Missouri University has Department for Nutrition and Dietitians.
Yes, we do. Yes, so we offer that from bachelor's as well as at the graduate level. So all levels.
So yeah, Aksa, go ahead and apply. Jazib Jamil wants to know if you would be requiring SAT or IELTS for undergrad admission, both the schools.
Sure. So at Mizzou, we do not require the SAT for admission purposes. We just do for scholarship consideration. For the IELTS, yes, we do accept IELTS as one of the exams for English proficiency. One being English, one being general knowledge. So what's kind of the difference between those two types of exams?
Do you accept Duolingo?
We do, yes. So we accept a number, we do currently. So for fall 20 and spring 2021. Beyond that, it will have to be reviewed by faculty council, but because of the whole, COVID situation, we are currently accepting it for applicants due to disruptions in accessibility to testing. So yes, there's a number of English proficiency exams we require, including Cambridge, PTE, but yes, TOEFL, IELTS being the most commonly that students submit.
Great. For Ashley, for your school?
Yes, so we would take the IELTS, or we would also take the SAT for proof of English proficiency. We take Duolingo. So we're a couple different options for proof of English proficiency.
Great. Anas wants to know what would be the cost of living in Missouri like compared to other states in the United States, and why is Missouri considered a favorable state for international students to study in?
Sure, I can start, and then Ashley, welcome to kind of jump in there too. So cost of living wise, Missouri tends to be a lower cost of living than many other states, just with a number of factors, but we just tend to be a lower cost of living than particularly the coasts. You will find variation within the state in terms of cost of living from one city to another, but overall, it is a lower cost of living. And then some of the benefits are, that there is a lot of different opportunities within the state in terms of academics, as well as having good opportunities for students to have those types of experiential learning opportunities, and then the friendly atmosphere that we mentioned earlier. But yeah, Ashley, if you have anything to add to that, you're more than welcome to.
No, I think, that's pretty much similar how I would have put it. Cost of living is going to be fairly different than what you might see for, say rent in New York City as opposed to rent in Missouri and St. Louis. So, you would be looking at anywhere from, in St. Louis, I know anywhere from $400 to $900. Really kind of just depends on your style. So there is a lot of room for flexibility in terms of cost of living here.
Yeah, I can speak for that as well, because I was in Missouri and I do know that the cost of living was very low compared to my friends who were in California or New York or anywhere else in the US. So yeah, you can survive as a student, and you don't really have to be concerned much about your cost of living when you're living in Missouri. So that was it from us. That would sum it up for us. Anything on your end that you two would want to add up in the whole conversation? And I would just want to thank you for being here and for sharing this valuable information with our students.
Yeah, just thank you for the opportunity. I mean, it's been a pleasure. I know my email address is certainly there. So if you do have questions about it, in Missouri overall, I'm from Missouri. I've lived in like 4 different cities in Missouri: Kansas City, St. Louis, Columbia, Springfield. So I've kind of experienced different aspects of the state, and there's a lot of diversity within the state in terms of geography, cities, different types of things. So I do appreciate that you are attending this webinar and kind of considering Missouri as your study destination.
Thank you, Shannon.
Yes, and absolutely. So huge thank you to you, Mariam, and to the team with Education USA. And thank you to all of you who have come and joined us today. I am wishing you all the best as you start to make these big decisions about what the next steps are going to be.
Thank you so much, and you too have a great day. Thank you, viewers. Thank you for being here, and thank you for attending our session. Hope this was a very helpful and informative session for you all. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.